These skills instantly turns a person on. We're going to dive into this today. Are men and women that different when it comes to love? In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. But in many cases, when we adopt these five skills, whether you're a man or woman, we are actually more attracted to another person. But here's the thing, I think there's such a hang up between men and women these days. And I want to examine some of the differences before we get into these skills that can actually enhance your relationship, that can actually bring a person to greater attraction. So let's look at some of the differences between men and women and how they really apply. See, there's this conversation about instinct and gender based differences between men and women. Men are the hunters, they're the providers, they're the protectors, and women are the nurturers. This is the narrative that's being discussed habitually in the area of attraction. And certainly there are some instinctual biologic or instinctual differences between men and women that can play a role in how we bond with another human being. But let's put that in a box for a second. And certainly there's biological differences between men and women. Men have testosterone, women have estrogen, there's pheromones, there's hormones, there's oxytocin, all of these things that play a factor in attraction as well. But here's where it starts to get a little tricky. Socialization. See, boys were socialized one way and girls were socialized another way. And because of that programming, we've adopted a lot of trauma and scripts about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. And believe me, for the guys watching this, I'm going to get into some granular stuff here. When I say guys, for a moment, I mean both men and women. Okay. Now, certainly there's cultural and religious differences or religious factors that play a role, our values, how we were raised, and all of this program plays into the attraction. And certainly, as I said earlier, socialization can have a traumatic experience for us, and certainly cultural and religious can have a traumatic experience for us. And what I mean by traumatic, meaning these scripts can be so ingrained, but it may not be a true reflection of your nature. It may not be a true reflection of who you are, and it might have created some trauma within you. And I'm going to get into that as well. Certainly, our socioeconomic and education play a role in the differences between men and women. Were you raised poor, rich, average? Your schooling certainly affects our programming and our attraction and even trauma around this. Certainly, people that were raised with wealth oftentimes have a silver spoon in their mouth. People that were born with into poverty, they might have a chip on their shoulder, but now that also might motivate them to be successful. And a lot of kids that grew up wealthy oftentimes are lazy bums to some degree, not all, but some. And certainly there are other factors that play into the differences between men and women. For example, our physical health and appearance can play a role in attraction. For a lot of the red pill community men, they hear words like sexual market value, how that plays into. And by the way, for the women watching this, I just want you to know there's this belief that a woman's value diminishes dramatically after age 30. And if you're a woman that ever has heard that, I just want you to know that's bunk. And since my audience tends to be more midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement, a person's value has nothing to do per se on their age. It has to do more with their heart, but we're going to get into that as well. And certainly our attractiveness is based on this. And there's so much social, there's so many scripts around physical health and appearance and physical fitness, particularly in magazines, particularly in social media, that we are bombarded that sadly young girls, please forgive me when I say girls, I say young women, feel the need to have plastic surgery at age 18, 19, and 20. When it used to be plastic surgery was reserved for people that wanted to look younger in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. And it's so fascinating how this plays such a role in human pair bonding. Now, you might be going, how does this relate to turning someone on? Please give me a moment. This is really important stuff that we need to cover. Now, here's where it starts to diverge a bit. And that is our imprinting, our childhood wounds, our love attachment styles, this trauma, the trauma that we experienced in childhood. Now, when I say trauma, I'm not talking about sincere physical or emotional abuse. I'm talking about the average trauma of just hearing a parent say no to us habitually. Now, some people might think that toughens us up, but believe me, when I say this, when we've heard negative comments from our parents, we create scripts inside of ourselves and our the value of who we are that isn't gendered based. Our imprinting can directly affect our relationships as we age. Now, I just brought up age and life experience. Are you marriage minded? Did you go through a divorce? Did you lose a job? Do you have kids? Do you have baggage in your life? That plays a role in human pair bonding, particularly not only in our capacity to blend lives with someone on an emotional level, but simply on a physical level. It can play a huge role into relationship success. And lastly, I want to dive into motive. Do you have a long-term mating strategy or a short-term mating strategy? See, sadly, a lot of men today have a short-term mating strategy. All they care about, if I meet the right person, I'll commit. Instead of, I want commitment, I want a life partner, and I'm going to find the right person that fits. Let me tell you something. A lot of, and particularly men after divorce, they're like well, men and women after divorce are very gun shy to commitment. And so, what's the bottom line of this part of the conversation is that our core differences are, a lot of it are based on scripts that we grew up with, the socialization, the scripts of culture, the socioeconomic education, certainly the scripts of social media and just media in general, how that plays a role. And then our life experiences, that there's no wonder we have chaos in the dating marketplace. It's no wonder that we humans are rather dysfunctional. And I jokingly say it's the Hunger Games out there. And my job for you is to put the odds in your favor. So we're going to get into those skills right now. I'm going to share 5 skills that are both related to men and women that can dramatically change your love life if you want a life partnership based relationship. Hey, look it. If you want just a hookup, that's okay. If you want a situationship, that's okay. It's casual, that's okay. But if you genuinely want a life partnership based relationship, now look, I know the men watching this, you have such a narrative regarding women that they're users, that they only care about money. Let me just tell you, women have the same issues with men. They don't want to be a nurse and they don't want to be a person relationship. So just be aware that while younger women might act one way, I'm going to tell you those in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond operate from a different perspective. And let me just tell you about these 5 skills I'm about to share with you. We're not born with this stuff. We have to learn this stuff. We have to adopt this stuff for ourselves. And if you don't believe it's possible to have this, then it's going to be a struggle for you to be in a relationship where you have that intense attraction for one another, where you're instantly turned on by each other. And I'm here to offer these 5 skills. For the first one is an easygoing personality. Do you have an agreeable nature? By the way, whether you're a man or woman, do you have an agreeable nature? I got to tell you something. It appears that a lot of human beings are rigid in their personality. It's either my way or the highway. And if you operate from a place of rigidity, just recognize that a relationship is going to have differences. You're going to have conflicts. And if you operate from an I'm right, you're wrong perspective, you have to ask yourself, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Do you naturally have an easygoing personality? Or is it something you have to work on? Is it something you have to learn to accept another human being for the way they are? And they have to accept you for the way you are. But are you going to do it from a place of love, or are you going to do it from a place of defensiveness and you want to disagree? Look at, I see a lot of people that are hung up on their stuff. They are so hung up on their stuff, and they'd rather be right than they'd rather be happy. So I'm just going to encourage you. I'm not here to teach you how to have an easygoing personality and to be agreeable. I'm just going to share with you that's way more attractive than a defensive, argumentative, uh, person. And I think you recognize that as well. Number 2, you've adopted self-love. Now, for some of the men listening, they go, what the heck is self-love anyway? By the way, if you don't know what it is, I highly recommend reading my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. And let me just say this, self-love is self-worth, self-confidence, self-reliance, self-respect, self-discipline is all wrapped up in the word love. Self-love. Self-love means I don't need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I can nurture and validate myself. Sadly, I notice a lot of women particularly need a tremendous amount of validation. And by the way, guys can be just as needy as well. By the way, it's 11:11 now. The video's been on for 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Adopting a healthy dose of self-love. That means you've done personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy to heal the childhood wounds and adult traumas, and to heal those wounds around those scripts of what masculinity and femininity represent. I'm going to tell you something. If you haven't read the book, oh, by the way, all the books I recommend are listed below, including my book. If you haven't read the book, If the Buddha Dated, I highly recommend this. It throws out the BS gender rhetoric and says, how can we connect with another human being at a heart-centered level? For some of the men listening to this, you're going to go, oh, this is just a bunch of woo-woo crap. I'm here to share with you. You have a choice. You can be marred in the whole narrative that women are bad and they're not good for you. And you can be the men going your own way. And ladies, you can adopt the belief that men are commitment phobic, that they're emotionally unavailable. You can operate from a place of what's wrong, or you can look at it from a place of abundance and go, you know what? There are wonderful human beings out there, and that's the ones I want to attract. Which leads us to number 3. What instantly turns a person on is you clearly know what you want. You know your standards. I said this earlier. Do you have a short-term mating strategy or a long-term mating strategy? Are you committed to commitment? See, if you're committed to commitment, then you know you want a life partner and you're going to find the right person for you, instead of hoping to find the right person and then shifting your beliefs into partnership. People that clearly know what they want, they have their standards of what they want. Now, I will say to you, a lot of people, their standards are ridiculously picky. He has to be over 6 foot tall. He has to be worth, millions of dollars. He has to have 6-pack abs, and he has to have a 6-inch or larger penis. That's from the women's perspective. From the men's perspective, all they care about is a young woman. Come on, guys. Really? Don't you want a life partner that can be there for you through thick and thin, that will take you to the colonoscopy appointment if you have one? Isn't that what you want? Be clear about your standards and be careful being overly picky about them. Number 4, you have boundaries. You establish boundaries. I like the way Brene Brown characterized it. And by the way, I should say boundaries and agreements, but I like the way Brene Brown talks about it. Is a boundary is simply what's okay and what's not okay for me. See, a boundary is honoring your standards. It's knowing what your standard is in a relationship. Are you looking for a relationship like what I was looking for, where we spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, teamwork, building skills, both in our personal life, traveling? Did I mention that? And intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy, that leads to either moving in together or getting married. And because of that standard, then you should be talking about the relationship from both, how did you get to where you're at today on an emotional level? Where are you today in this relationship? But more importantly, you should most likely be talking about, where do we want this relationship to go? How do I want to be in my life? going forward with another person. This is setting up agreements and conversations with one another, because if you're not having these agreements and conversation, you're just kind of rolling the dice. But Jonathan, the guy I'm with, says we should just live in the moment, and the men are saying we should just live in the moment. Guys, let me just say this. It's great to live in the moment, to appreciate the moment. But if you don't have a game plan or where you want to go in this relationship, do you operate that in your professional life as well? Do you operate, oh, I just want to live in the moment in my professional life? Your purpose is something that's driven you. And so ask yourselves, men and women alike, what's the purpose of a relationship? What is the destination we want to have within this relationship, instead of let's just live in the moment? That's just a bunch of crap, in my opinion. And so having these skills, and the fifth skill is to be passionate and desirous of sex. I mean, what's the whole point of being in a romantic relationship with someone if it isn't about the physical connection? And if you lack that desire and passion for it, because desire and passion turns both men and women on to be, whether you're a dominant, whether you're a submissive. I ask yourself, what's your kink in relationship? I invite you to explore that for yourself. But what's the whole point of being in a romantic relationship if that physical side isn't a strong part of the relationship? Now, I don't mean it's the entire reason for a relationship, but isn't it kind of sad people have been married 5 or 10 years and they're not even physically intimate anymore? You should adopt this as agreements between one another. Even Esther Perel talks about maintenance sex. But a lot of people are acting very attitudinally, or have an attitude about it that if I'm not feeling it, we shouldn't have it. And I'm just here to say sex is a great thing. And sometimes adopting a regular practice, but coming from a place of passionate desire, is certainly turns on our partner. What does instantly turn on our partner? These 5 things: easygoing personality and agreeable, self-love, which means self-worth, self-confidence, self-reliance, self-respect. Number 3, they clearly know what they want. They have their standards in relationship. Number 4, they set up boundaries and agreements with one another to honor those standards. And lastly, passionate and desirous of sex is certainly a major turn on for both men and women alike. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Follow me on social media. Get my dating vows. It's listed below. And also get my book as well. And all the books I recommend are listed as well. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Merrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. Give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.